This one was requested like last year or 2 years ago, and I did not have the energy to connect to them. I couldn't connect to them, and because there's always scandals around their name, so I just didn't feel the energy to do that. But now I feel like I can try to separate the politics, in the social media regarding their name and with their synastry. So let's dive in and see how Gabrielle Union and Dwayne Wade, connect in terms of synastry and astrology, right? I do see a lot of like pull and push in terms of their relationship and in terms of the vision of their love, and this is mainly due to their Ketu and Rahu being conjunct, right? So Ketu is all about focusing on the past, focusing on transformations, focusing on turning on a new leaf every time, like shedding of the old into the new all the time, repeatedly. Whereas Rahu is about focusing on stabilizing a family life, accumulating wealth, enjoying life, enjoying the pleasures of the world, of the earth, like not focusing much on the psychological traumas, all of that. It doesn't want to deal with that. It just wants to be free to feel good, right? And this is how they have been dealing with their relationship, whereas they had to always find a balance between these two subjects, right? What I can see from just the get-go is that it's difficult to separate them. Like anyone who would want to separate these two, they would have a difficulty into doing it. Like it is difficult. Like this is a couple that gives me a synastry that tells us that even if things were to go horribly, they'd still to be together. Like they'd stick it out together. Like they have so much glue in their synastry that it would just be almost impossible for them to separate, right? But let's see the deeper things in the synastry. I have his Saturn trine her Venus. Beautiful love, stable support towards love, commitment is there, right? But then remember, his Venus is retrograde, so it means that it's always giving a less impact as it would with a stable Venus. Okay, so it's like the commitment is there, but it's not focusing on the marriage, right? But it's focusing rather on a pull that is always wanting to separate them. Something is always wanting to separate these guys. Speaking of separation, are they still together, or did they just recently separate? Because when I look at their progressions, it's like there was a recent separation or a ongoing separation, right? That's what I'm seeing here, but I haven't read anything relating to this, so I don't know. But anyway, everything is always alleged, right? From the get-go until the end, everything is always alleged. So I haven't read any news about a separation or an ongoing separation or plans to separate. Even though the synastry is alluding to this, but I didn't hear anything. So I also see that at age 55, she would experience a bit of a disappointment or pain, regarding the relationship or the love. So it's basically whatever thing that she experienced at 37 years old, at 49 years old, she's going to relive that moment, right? And she would relive that moment. And I can see that is also, like right now, her progressing Venus is conjunct with his Venus, Sun, and Mercury. Some healing here is happening. Some talks, healing, trying to rejuvenate something, right? And I see that his progressing Venus is conjunct with his Rahu. So this is why I'm asking, like, are they separated, or did they just separate, or are they planning to separate? You know, it's just there's so much stuff relating to this thing here, right? And I see that his progressing Venus will soon be opposite his natal Venus at this time, meaning that, you know, some sort of disagreement or disaccord. All right. Around 45, his progressing Venus conjunct with his moon. But I don't think if, you know, they would have another child at this time, you know, even though it's alluding to having another child, right? But then in their case, maybe it would be just focusing on their children and their family, just nurturing what they already have, right? Because she's 52 years old now and she couldn't have kids. That's why, you know, she opted for, I think, IVF regarding her daughter. So, you know, then maybe, you know, they would be focusing on their children. And this is only on his side though, so it's not really going on to her side. So this is like around 45 years old. I do know he's got another child, like out of sight of the marriage, and this is before he got married. So I wouldn't think he would do that again. Basically, when she turns 55, her progressing Venus is going to be conjunct with her progressing Ketu, as well as Chiron in the sign of Pisces, which is a sign of endings, a sign of, you know, dissolutions, a sign of, I mean, with the Chiron here, hurting, wounding, disappointment, you know, and is facing her natal Venus, which is conjunct with his Saturn and Mars. I mean, with the Saturn, like, Saturn is always obviously promising commitment. This is why I say there's always like something that is trying to separate them, but then it's hard to separate them, right? Because regardless of any Ketu aspect or any Ketu with Venus, there's always like a, you know, one of their Saturns trying to bind and trying to keep the bondage, you know, in between them happening. So this is around 55. She's 52 years old now. She's 52 years old now, right? And again, this is why I said, do they just come out of a separation? Do they just recently separate? Because, you know, recently, of course, her progressing Venus being attached to being attached to his Venus, but which is also with Ketu, right? So, and a Jupiter and her Rahu as well. But I didn't see anything on Google, didn't see anything on Instagram, didn't see anything on Twitter. No news outlet, you know, alluded to any of this, right? Also, they do have a solid synastry because they have a like his Venus is conjunct with her Saturn. Her Venus is conjunct with his Venus. Her Venus conjunct with his Saturn, and her Saturn trine his Venus. And then they have a trine of Saturn and Saturn, then they have a trine of Venus and Venus, right? It is and then they have a conjunctions of Mars. Like, everything is just so smooth, and of course with problems, because then she's got her Mars conjunct his Saturn. A lot of frustration here, a lot of, you know, really like hard frustrations here. They could be even like speaking harshly towards each other, because it's in Virgo. Virgo is Mercury, speech and all of that, and it would be maybe relating to their planning, how the other one does things and the other one doesn't like that. and it definitely helps their work, their marriage, like being together, you know. So, and she's got her Venus with his Mars. Again, like I always say, I don't like Venus and Mars together. I prefer them in an opposition, not conjunct. Because with Mars and Saturn and Venus and Mars all in the same house, there are like their arguments go big. Their arguments go boom. And I wouldn't be surprised if somebody were to tell me that there was physical altercation between them. Like with this conjunctions here, their relationship is a relationship also full of pain. Like there's a whole lot of pain here, a whole lot of pain, and it could also be physical pain, it could also be emotional pain, could be any type of pain, but too much because her Chiron is also opposite his Saturn. And then, you know, yeah, that Mars and Saturn there, I don't like it at all. And they also have, you know, a square of their moons, meaning that even emotionally, they are just sacrificing and compromising quite a whole lot in this marriage. And they have an in conjunction of her Saturn and his moon. Really, like emotionally, they don't gel. They compromise, they sacrifice, you know, to be together in terms of this part. And of course, you can see also in terms of children that they've had troubles, you know, having a child because of their moons, because they're not gelling. You know, anytime when there's an in conjunction or something like that, disharmony regarding the moons, then even having children becomes a problem in the relationship. But again, they compromise, right? And they got you know, the medical help involved to have their daughter. I do have her moon is sextile his Saturn, which is giving support, which is one of the main reasons giving support to their marriage, right? It means that it's her who really sacrifices a lot, compromises a lot, you know, to make this work, and of course, again, alluding to, you know, that child that they had just before they got married, you know, because of that moon, square moon, you know, problems around nurturing, around parenting, and she's got, you know, her Saturn with, you know, in conjunct his moon also, which is a big problem here. I do have, what else do I have? I have the conjunctions of Lilith, and I do have her moon opposite his Venus, Mercury, and Sun, which is something giving like a whole lot of problems emotionally. If they do have, you know, her Venus conjunct with her Saturn, which is giving one of the reasons why they got married, one of the reasons why they stay married, because Venus and Saturn, they like to be married to each other. They like to have that harmonious or outlook, you know, and also obviously towards work, because for them it's in vigor, and having a good image for their work, for their professions, and also for their health, really generally. But they also do have, you know, her Ketu conjunct with his Rahu, which is one of the main reasons why there could always be something trying to separate them, and, you know, something, you know, making her always maybe focusing on the past, what's happened in their past, what he's done, what she's experienced, and then he wants to move on. He's like, okay, let's just move on, let's just forget about it, and then she can't, right? Yeah, it's very complicated. Like their Synastry, particularly because he's got, you know, Venus, which is retrograde, meaning that, again, alluding to what I just said, she's always going back to the past, like what's happened in the past, can't move on, because Venus is representing the spouse, the wife, her in this case, and it's retrograde, meaning that she's always like trying to reflect on what's happened, why did this happen, and all of that, and it makes it difficult to have harmonious moving forward, because also she's got her Ketu with his Rahu. So they have this is like a marriage that I feel like I would be watching from one of Tyler Perry's movies. Very complicated, but also foundation of love is here, because of Venus is conjunct with his Saturn, and then they have his Venus trine his Saturn. So there's so much love, so much commitment, yet many problems. Huge problems, not just small problems, like huge problems, complicated problems. Adding to this, you add her staying in the past or remaining in the past. She can't move on from things that hurt her, from things that hurt the marriage, from things that she's experienced, like painful things, right? And he's like trying to move on, like just forget about it, and she's like, I can't forget about it, you did this, I can't just move on, right? So you find that now he feels like he's further away with communication, further away with even his ego from how she feels, and then she feels like her emotions are not finding a good base or a good support, right, in terms of what's happened, right? And then there's that pain or potential physical pain from the Mars and Saturn, or if not physical, then it's like frustrations whereby their arguments are just so hard to digest, affecting their health, affecting even their work as well. Like very, very big problems here, because it's in Virgo. Virgo is the sign of these things: health, work, your daily routine, whereby a fight could just stop you from having a good day, literally, right? I love that her sun is conjunct his moon. Definitely here it means that there's a base, there's a foundation of respect as well, not only just love, but there's also respect, that sun and moon comes with. Easy to take orders from each other, easy to feel nurtured by the other. All right, and also of course her sun is conjunct his Jupiter, again just expanding this vibe or respect, like respecting each other. I see this a lot, right? But at the same time, it didn't come easily, because there's his Pluto here, so meaning that he challenged her orders at some point. He had to before. Because Pluto will not take things lightly. Pluto will challenge power. Pluto will want to show its own power, right? Otherwise, I think that's it, So, because, holidays are finishing this weekend now. So, Christmas holidays coming to an end. Otherwise, thanks, guys. I'll chat to you soon. Ciao.